Okay, this is browning some beef short ribs. This is the way they come from the butcher. She just cuts them up, cuts through the bone, and just browned that in a little bit of sunflower oil. And this is going to go into the big pot here and be turned into beef broth with lots of short rib meat, which is very tasty stuff. Okay, so I've got these brown short ribs in a pot, full heat. Just bring this water up to boil, and then I'll cut that heat back and let them simmer for a good long time till all that fat comes out and the meat breaks up and is nice and tender. Okay, this is a soup. It's the start of what I'm going to call, I don't know, cornucopia soup, I think, because it's got a bunch of vegetables. This is chicken stock from this chicken. That's just 3 big thighs. We've got here gizzards, which have been sliced up and the cartilage removed. For veggies, we're going to start off here with onion, carrots. That's 8 big carrots there, and celery. This is the top of the celery leaves. These two are the parsley. These are the parsley leaves. These are the parsley stems. That is a couple big garlic cloves. And these are tomatoes out of the freezer, which I'm going to make into a sauce. And all that gets put together with both beef and chicken stock. So this is a mixed thing here. So I browned these beef short ribs. Let those cook down. They'll take a while. And when they're about half done, I'll start the tomatoes. I'm not going to make a tomato sauce, but the tomatoes, I feel strongly that a little bit of acidity in the tomatoes helps all the flavors get friendly. Everything here is going to get cooked individually, especially those carrots, so they can get caramelized. The onions, I don't want to burn them. I want to just get them nice and clear. Same with the garlic. So that's all going to get cooked separately, and the celery will get cooked separately. And I think the parsley here and the celery tops can just go in at the end there. Still debating whether or not to put this cucumber in there, or squash. We'll see as we go. Okay, I'm starting my carrots. This is the pan that these beef short ribs were browned in. So it's still got plenty of oil in it, a little bit of those short rib bits. And I want to caramelize these carrots just because that's the way I like them. And, good. So when they're done, I'll set them aside and work on the celery and the onions and eventually those tomatoes. They're still frozen, that doesn't bother me, but they're going to go through a food mill or a strainer or something and become a tomato sauce. Okay, the carrots are starting to caramelize, so I'm going to take them out and set them aside here in a minute. And then I'm going to get rid of this flat bottom pan. It's okay, but I got used to using these curved bottom pans. It's just more efficient to be able to turn your things over by giving it a little bit of a flip there. Okay, so give these carrots just another minute, and they're nice and soft. Not too soft. Get a bigger one here and try it. It's the bigger pieces aren't quite soft yet, but that's okay. They'll have lots of time to cook in the soup. Well, a reasonable amount of time to cook in the soup. The little ones are getting soft, so maybe I should do a better dicing job next time. Oh, look at these big, beautiful Tuscan tomatoes. Right out of the freezer. They're just thawed enough to get out of the tubs. We put them in. So I'm going to just put this on the stove with a little bit of water. Let them finish thawing in there and turn that into tomato juice and then figure out how to get the seeds and skins off. Okay. Let's turn on the gas. There's barely, yep. Oh, barely, maybe 20 centimeters, a little bit less than an inch of water in the bottom there. Let's put the lid on that. And that'll let them get thawing. Meanwhile, what to do with this chicken broth? I don't really need this pot, but I'm gonna start consolidating here a little bit, making a lot of mess. This little bit of chicken broth, it's a broth from 3 big chicken thighs and a package of gizzards. It's gonna go right in there with the beef, so I'm gonna happy. And while we're thinking about this broth, let's add some saffron. This is powdered saffron, which is not my first choice, but there it goes. Yeah, I rinsed the glass out to get that little bit of saffron that was sticking up around the edges there. Okay, while my beef and stock are coming up to temperature here, we got a little bit more. I'm just using sunflower oil here, and getting our onions ready. Okay, and here's exactly why I switched to this pan, because it's so much easier to do this. See, they're starting to get a little bit yellow there and clear. If we do that every once in a while, just keep them on a nice low heat. Yeah, maybe even a little bit lower than that. Yep, good enough. Just bring those things up till they are nice and clear. And then I'm going to put the garlic in this pan. And yeah, I don't know, maybe I'll cook it separate, who knows. Okay, so these tomatoes are not at a boil yet, but they are definitely releasing a lot of juice. It's clear because the pulp hasn't been crushed into it yet. But that 1 inch of water, 20 centimeters, is at least doubled now. Back on the onions here. Could turn this heat up just a little tiny bit. They're coming along, but you see how they glisten? Let me turn off this light and the fan. Let's turn the light back on. You see how they kind of, glisten? Yep. That's the oil coming out of the onion, which is wonderful thing. Problem. You get a bigger stove here because we need room to flip. So let's let our tomatoes do their thing. Maybe stand back here a little bit. I'm just going to keep tossing these until they're all nice and clear. Well, except for maybe a couple of the bigger pieces. Okay, the onions are coming along nicely. Starting to clear a little bit, and they're giving off that nice onion aroma. So just keep moving here about every 5 minutes, and yeah, they'll do their thing. Yeah, some of them are starting to clear up pretty nicely. And okay, the tomatoes are coming along very nicely, and you see the liquid's still clear. There's a good amount of it there, and we're down to the pulps of the tomatoes. I don't know if I'm just going to pick out the skins and leave the seeds in there. I'm going to try the food mill. So I've decided against the food mill. I can't find my kitchen tweezers, my pasta tweezers, but it's easy enough to pull the skins out. And as soon as I start making the video of it, it gets difficult. You just pinch them a little bit, and the skin comes off pretty well. And then we're left with the meat of the tomato there in the this. I hate to call it a sauce. It's not really going to be a tomato sauce. It's going to be tomatoes. It's going to be tomatoes and juice that'll go in to the soup. And I don't like to get tomato skins in my soup there. I mean, there's nothing wrong with them. They're good for you and everything, but I'm just going to pick through here a while and save you the agony. Okay, before we put in this next batch of tomatoes. I'm just going to take these out. Oh, look. And that's going to help me find the skins too. Look at that. So, take this batch out. I'm just going to leave those as big tomato pieces like that. Because I remember in some of the, the vegetable soup when I was a kid, the tomatoes they're big chunks of tomatoes in it. And these tomatoes have got the core in them, which is the way we put it into the freezer. But it's not the end of the world. Tomato core, not exactly my first choice for it. Yeah. Okay. So that mushish down, that's going to be tomato sauce. I've already got a lot of the pulp coming out here already into the soup, or into the sauce, the juice, whatever we want to call it. But now it's time to add more tomatoes. And we have a surprise at the bottom of that tub of tomatoes. So that's going to just sit there for a while and let them finish thawing and start to cook. And then they'll get transferred into this pan and pull off some more of the skins. And while I was fooling with the tomatoes, I should have been watching the onions a little bit more closely. The ones in the bottom have browned a little bit and started to caramelize, which might be serendipity. Although some people have problems. Some people do have problems with overly brown onions and garlic, so this just something that needs to be watched. In this case, I'm not serving anybody with this type of a malady. And look how nice and yellow they are, and clear. But another flip or two right in between 5 minutes ago would have been nice, but it's too late for that now. So the onions I'm going to call done, and let's move on to the celery. Now the onions are just going to rest in here and wait with my carrots. Those will all get added together later. So the onions are going to sit in here and wait with my carrots. They're all cooked and caramelized unintentionally on the onions, and then that'll get added in later. So that's the pan my onion just came out of. My celery is going to go directly in there with a little bit more oil. Okay, so I've added a little bit of sunflower oil to my celery there, and I just kind of feel like they need a little bit something else here. I'm going to just put in a little bit of this tomato juice. It's just so they don't burn. It's to reduce the temperature a little bit. I might put a little bit more in there. They're starting to change color here already a little bit. They're getting greener. And maybe just a little bit more there. Tomato juice. Okay. Now let's give them a little bit of time to steam and clear up and do their thing. Okay, keeping an eye on things here. My celery's coming along pretty nicely. Got 2 test pieces here that are my little indicators. I don't want to have them too much above everybody else, but they're just a little bit bigger, so they're going to require more heat to come to temperature. So again, cutting things to a nice consistency is well, it could be helpful. It depends how much variance you like in your product. That's the beautiful thing about cooking. So just keeping an eye here quick on the tomatoes. Yep, they need to come to a boil again. Make sure they're thawing very well. And they're starting to, the release a little bit of moisture of their own. And the aroma here, which is a really good, important indicator, celery, it's so nice. I'm intentionally cooking these separately. I don't know, well, of course you noticed. Over here I've got my carrots, which were cooked first, and then my onions were cooked second. We get to the garlic here at some point, and the parsley goes in later in the process. This is the celery tops. I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to incorporate those, if at all. But the tomatoes are nice. They're these big pieces of kind of tomato that will drift around in the soup there. And I just think they're interesting. They're going to taste really good when it's all done. But for now, just a little bit more time on this celery, and then we'll put them in the bowl with the carrots and the onion, and then they can wait until it's their time to go into the pot. And let's see how the pot's doing here. It's a little bit warm there. Yeah, the beef is cooking nicely here. That's a little bit too heavy of a boil, I think. I'm gonna turn it down a little bit. Maybe just leave the lid off. Then more evaporation. No, the right solution here is to leave the lid on and cracked, and turn the temperature down just a little bit. Maintain something just under a boil. The water's at almost at boiling temperature, 100 degrees C. But cooking the meat. And the celery is continuing here. I don't think it's going to be too much longer until that's done. And of course our tomatoes are thawing very nicely, and this will start to boil and they'll cook in no time at all. And they're not very seedy. These are meaty tomatoes. You can see the seeds there. It's not very seedy compared to the amount of meat on this tomato. So, yeah, then all the tomato liquid and the tomatoes will at some point be incorporated into the stock cooking along over here. I remember that was hot. So let's just pause for now and give our celery some time. And we don't really need to be flipping this too much, because I did put in a little bit of tomato juice, which is basically water, so it's at a little bit reduced cooking temperature. Now, the last thing I'm going to say at this segment is that normally, from what I've seen, most people cook the three kings here, the celery, the onions, and the carrots at the same time. But I'm going for something a little bit different. They don't all exactly cook the same way together. I don't know if this is going to be better or worse, but you have to take a chance, and if it's not as good, well, you learn something there too. Yeah, that's it. Okay, I'm going to call it on the celery and complete our trio here. The celery and onion and carrots. And that is going to be there waiting. Everything is cooked. Well, it's not exactly cooked as perfectly as they all could be, because I did slightly overcook the onions. They got caramelized a little bit, which could be serendipity. Who knows? But there they are waiting to be put into the soup once the beef cooks down. And we've got our beef broth all good with the tomatoes, all that good stuff in it. Okay, and just checking on our tomatoes. Did you notice that our liquid volume has increased again? We have got a lot of very nice tomato, I'm going to call it tomato broth here. And we're ready to start picking some skins out of this. But that tomato broth, it's acidic a little bit. And I think it's got a lot to do with the dispersion of flavors and things. So I don't know. That's why I opted. I was starting out to make a chicken soup this morning. But the more I got into it and thought about it a little bit, I liked this idea of using these tomatoes. Basically, I needed room in the freezer. So that's how the tomatoes got out of the freezer and into the soup. Okay, so the garlic's on a nice low heat now. And I've been fussing over these tomatoes, pulling things up and seeing what's there. And see that? That's like a core of the tomato. That's where the stem comes down into the tomato. And I've been pulling those out. So I've got a whole bunch of kind of waste-ish stuff here. And I don't know. I know there's a lot of good stuff in there without waste. So I'm thinking through how to recover the good stuff. Get rid of the waste. This is where I think I do need some kind of a masher or something. Okay, there's a piece there. Just gotta go. Okay, and here was the solution to that last problem. To get the yummy juice out of this and mush it up a little bit. It's sort of like call it a poor man's food mill. I didn't like the food mill I bought, though. I've got to get a better food mill. Because obviously it has value. Okay, there's probably a better way to do this, and I can't show you this because I've got only two hands. But the scoop, it seems to work pretty well. Let me try to scoop out, fish around in here with this holy spoon, right? The spoon's got holes in it. Then you put it into the strainer like this, and then it lets you mush it. It grabs the seeds up and the skins and the core and placenta of the tomato, which I don't think you want. And this is starting to look like turn the heat down and cook that a while. This is going to be good. Now, maybe a finer spoon would be good because some of the seeds escape back through the holes in this particular spoon. But they certainly, once the ones that get up to the screen area here, or the sieve, certainly don't get through. And that goes up to our compost. So, yeah, I've got a pretty good feeling that this is going to be a nice tomato sauce. Okay, so a little pre-drain there. Get the tomato pulp up in here. Oop, I need a wider pot for this because my cooking utensils are just a little bit too wide for this pot. And I did see a piece in there I wanted to get rid of. See, there's a piece of skin coming up. You see that over there? And I just keep working up through here until I get something that looks a little fishy, like that. See, I don't know if you can see a little green stripe through that. Goes right to left. That is a piece of where the stem comes down into the tomato, and we probably don't want those. It might be fine, I don't know. There's the piece I was looking for. That big piece. But tomato core, that's not a good thing. Well, it's not a bad thing. It's just that I want it. I do not want it. Okay, enough of that for now. Okay, so I neglected to capture the garlic being finished. You notice it's all pretty white. A little bit yellow there, here and there. Very lightly done. But what I'm going to do, just for the heck of it, is to heat this chicken back up. And I'm going to also incorporate these, well, we always call them gizzards. I don't know what they are. They were boiled with the chicken to make the stock. But I picked them because I always liked the sound of gizzard, and maybe that's why I decided I liked them. I thought, let's just, brown these up a little bit, crisp them up a little bit. I don't know why, just for a little bit of texture effect. When they go back into the soup, they're going to be competing against those short ribs, so they need every advantage they can get. Okay, it's time to take the meat out and debone it and so forth. And the reason it's time to take the meat out is because it's done. It's done. It's nice and tender. And yeah, it does look a little fatty. It might look a little fatty here, but that's the idea, is to pull some of that out. So that's going to go into here for now. And we'll pull these short ribs out, cut away the fat and the cartilage, because they have rendered out. Now, if I wanted to really do this right with short ribs, I would have put these things under the broiler for a good long time to broil that marrow out of there. But, you know, that's the way I did it. I see the advantage here now of cutting these short ribs the way they are. Let's take a look at this piece. Okay, see here? Rib. Makes it easy to turn them over in the pan when you're browning them, and then you can get them all out at once. So, okay, let's let this cool a little bit and then work on that. And then into this broth goes this broth, and into that goes our veggies and our chicken, and the beef will be ready to go by then. Okay, so I poured my tomato broth into my beef and chicken stock. I'm going to add in these. These are the cut up little stems of a bunch of parsley. You know, the parsley leaves go on at the end, but I think these stems might have some taste in them. And the other thing that's strictly experimental here is these celery leaves from the top of the celery. I think I'm going to get out the old immersion blender here and give that cut that all up a little bit more. Okay, so let's let it rip with the immersion blender here. What's going on here? Okay, it was the adapter. And what I'm hoping to do here, chop up that parsley a little bit more. And I don't really think this is the right balance between the size of the tool and the parsley. So I'll just let this run a while, and then this is going to cook down. This is the basis for my soup here. It's tomato, fresh tomato. It's starting to smell like something that grandmother would make. And beef broth, and I added the chicken broth, so that's not exactly the recipe, but far from it, but it does smell good. So, I don't know if I was successful in getting that parsley chopped up a little bit more or not. But anyway, it's incorporated. I didn't want to compost those vitamins and so forth. Simple like that. I just didn't want to compost them. And I thought, well, let's try. Okay, and all this, this might look like sacrilege to many. This is my short ribs. Bones out, a lot of the cartilage out, just a little bit of fat in there yet. And the chicken is thighs and gizzards. And that will go into here after it's cooked down some more. And while this is cooking down, there's no reason the meat can't be in there. So let's just go ahead and put it in more carefully so I don't splatter. Okay, although I hate to do this, this is the time to add a little bit of salt or bouillon or any other spices that you find to be pretty good. I'm just going to put in a little bit of salt and then let it cook a little bit and try it. Okay, we're getting down to the final couple of things here. So it tastes good as is, but now is when the magic really happens, when the carrots and the onions and the celery go in there. Okay, come on. I want all you carrots out of there. Come on. And then that's got to cook a while, because this is when I think the real chemistry happens in the situation. So this is going to need another good half hour or so to let those vegetable flavors mix in good with the meat and the sauce and the liquids of the soup. It's a soup. It's kind of based on a vegetable soup recipe. But it is a soup, you see? There's lots of liquid in there. The vegetables are in there, and the meat's in there, but there's a lot of broth. So the idea here is, you can put this in a bowl and eat it, but you can also freeze it. And then, when you re-cook it, you can boil pasta or rice in it. Something like that. Okay, so it's done. It's running a little bit higher boil here than really I needed at the end. It's a lid on it tight. But all that, you saw what went into that, making this soup. What's it for? And I'm going to show you now. Okay. This time, it's for tortellini. What I'm going to do, now most of that pasta soup's going to go in the freezer. But this is a nice tortellini, and we're going to put it on the stove and turn on the heat. And get in there some of this yummy soup. That's how I'm going to cook this tortellini. Oh, should we get a little bit of chicken and vegetables? No, I think I'll freeze that. Yeah, no, I better get it out, because I want this to be mostly liquid when it goes in the freezer. But this is boiling. It'll come right back to a boil. A bit more. Need a little bit more. So that is how the tortellini gets cooked. Now the rest of this, I'm going to turn off the heat, let it cool a little bit, and then it goes in the freezer. All of it. It's a big pot. Maybe this will be dinner tonight. Okay, now as the tortellini is cooking here, I should grab a wooden spoon for my non-stick pan. But as the tortellini cooks, remember that this is a very rich, vegetably, beefy, chickeny. It's very flavorful. So when this goes in the freezer, this sauce, the idea is it's going to be a little bit more flavorful than it needs to be. So cook it with some water, or thaw it by boiling it in water. Because when it comes out of the freezer, it's going to be a solid chunk. So you put the chunk in the pan, put some water in with it, and then turn on the heat, and then the water will boil, it will thaw, it will get hot again. And then you cook some pasta in it, or some rice, or some pasta, or some rice. And it's good. Or you could just have it directly in a bowl with a piece of bread be, it's good. Remember, there's nothing in here. This is all vegetables. This is all good stuff. That's the idea. So let's just let this pasta cook. I think it takes just a few minutes. This particular pasta is pretty fresh, so it doesn't take long at all. Okay, so there we have it. That's dinner. So I'll get this out of here without knocking the pan off the burner. Okay. I've been cooking all day to make this soup, but it makes a lot. I made a lot. It's going to last. I could pull this out of the freezer at any time and have this various kinds of pastas with this. Let's get a little bit more juice here. I'll take a little bit more out of the main pot. Just a little bit there. Oh, I forgot something here. A little bit of fresh parsley. And when I put that tortellini away in the freezer, I'll top it with a little bit of fresh parsley. Oops. Got a little instability there on our tripod. So, this is it. That soup, it's basically a wonderful sauce. It's very good all by itself. you saw any of that. And it might seem like a lot of time to cook something like this up. There's a lot of chopping and so forth. I think I chopped vegetables for, I don't know, an hour. Carrots, celery, onions, stuff. Maybe it wasn't that long. But then the cooking and watching out what you're doing, being careful about things. This was totally worth it because I've got a big pot of it over there. Let's get a camera over there. And I'll have several little containers of this in the freezer before too long. But before that pot cools down, I made this tortellini in it. You can have noodles. Could you make this as a pasta sauce? Probably. It's tasty. Got a lot of vegetables, a lot of vegetable flavors. The meat, of course, is good. So, you can vary this by an enormous amount. But I do think that this idea of getting a little bit of parsley on here at the end, fresh cut parsley, doesn't hurt. And, let's say about this. I hate the, crow, but it's good. So, enjoy it. Bon appetit. I've got to get a tripod for this camera. Okay, look at this. Take a look at this tortellini and the broth. It's so rich. You don't even need to eat tortellini with this broth. It's so good all by itself. But the idea of mixing the chicken and the beef, it's fine. It's just lots and lots of tastes. Very good. So, what's unusual about this? Well, not unusual, I guess. It's just, I haven't seen it too much. Is look, here's a big piece of beef. It's like a beef soup. It's like a vegetable soup. Beef and vegetable. Put chicken in there with the tortellini, the carrots. It all comes together very well. It's good. I'm having a very nice dinner. Thank you. I hope you enjoy yours as much, half as much. You'll be in heaven. Bon appetit. I'm on my second bowl of this, my second serving. I don't even know what I put in the refrigerator. It's going to stay there for long. This is pretty good. And I wanted to sample it a little bit more, i.e. eat more. And those gizzards are interesting in there. I like those. And it's not exactly a stronger liver taste, which I also like, but it adds some contrast. They keep their taste a little bit. Sort of pieces of gizzard. So there's that. Bon appetit. Every time I say bon appetit and stop this, I think of something else I want to say, because I'm enjoying this quite a bit. I think there's no one secret to that. It's just lots of vegetables and I don't know. It doesn't have to be one meat or another. Lots of vegetables are the key to give it a good taste. I think caramelizing those carrots was a good idea. And I didn't use very much for spices here, just a little bit of beef bouillon. And, you saw the salt. Okay, that's it. Bon appetit. Did you believe me? No, I really meant it this time. Bon appetit. Eat well.